Hi, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. For those of you who are returning, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, usually we do pick a card. Sometimes I'll just check the energy. But today we're going to work with something different. These messages, I'm not sure what's coming up. So in full transparency, I don't watch a lot of movies, but I was watching this movie. And some of you may have seen the movie. It was called Divergent. I think that's the name of it. Or at least it was a series or something like that. Anyway, I happened to catch a glimpse of it, right? And then I started to get these downloads about that movie. How many of you are divergent in your own way, and that as this new earth energy is coming forward, it's calling forth a divergence. Okay, thank you. So let's see what we got. So let me give you some of the notes I took down from the downloads, okay? I'm gonna pull some messages, see what comes out. But divergent is a tendency or tending to be different or to develop in a different direction. So as we're moving into this new earth energy, we're moving into a different direction. I'm hearing a more elevated direction, right? Different from the standard. There's been a standard way of doing things. That's too many. But the cycles are ending because the time is over. Okay, I'm going to take those and be done with that. That's a lot. Cycles are over. Things are ending. Okay? Divergent. Divergent is tending to be different. This was going to be a pick a card, but I'm just rolling with the energy. So y'all going to have to flow with me because that's what I am. Water. And we go with the flow of where the energy takes us. And right now, I feel like we about to go down a rabbit hole, but let's do the thing. Who was that, Alice? Call me Alice, your tour guide, okay? So here we go. Divergent is tending to be different or develop in a different direction. Divergent is differing from the standard. So what's been the status quo? What's been the way that we've been known to go? There's a departing from that. Cycles are ending. That time is over. We're digressing from that. We're veering from that, swerving. Swerve to the left, swerve to right. Whatever it is, it's deviating. And we're deviating so that we can come into divine alignment. I'm hearing Mayat with order out of chaos. We're diverting from the light code lockdown. Ooh, if y'all could have heard those wheels reaching past here. The light code lockdown is where certain information has been hidden from you about who you are spiritually, about how things happen on the spiritual realm, about divine wisdom, guidance, and insight. So some of you have turned away, or should I say come into divine alignment with different possibilities, unusual ones. So this is where some of you recognize and know that you are spiritual warriors, spiritual gangsters, I'm hearing. You're moving in a way that helps you think of new ideas and or solutions. Many of you are tapped into the standing ones. Who are the standing ones, Tonae? The trees. The wisdom of the trees, the wisdom that comes forth when you connect with nature is amazing because it's ancient wisdom. Trees are some of the first things that were created on earth. Even though there's this cutting down of the trees so that you can't tap into the wisdom, some of you have forgotten that wisdom. And there's now this growth that's happening of moving forward in a way towards new beginnings. Some of you are farmers and gardeners, and you can see the change that's happened with food. And even though there's a change that's happening, these things that we're turning aside from, not going with the status quo on, are things like child trafficking and child endangerment. There's this turning away, veering towards divine alignment to protect the innocents. And it's the innocence of your spiritual alignment. Those that can't protect themselves. For many of you, we're veering away from things like MK Ultra. Some of you have been, confirmation I just heard. Some of you have been experimenting upon, and you have these gifts. The MK Ultra was to control your mind, to control your gifts. It was an illegal experimentation program done by the CIA to develop procedures and drugs to weaken people's forces. It was brainwashing, psychological torture. Some of you experienced this as a child. Child endangerment, child trafficking, because it was known that as a child you had gifts. The clairs for some of you, clairsentience, clairvoyance, able to tap into different vibrations, to receive downloads, to receive light codes, to receive wisdom. And for those of you who are in farming and things like that, you've come to know about the forever chemicals. These are the things we're veering away from, swerving, digressing, taking a turn, moving in a different direction, closing these cycles. See, forever chemicals, if you've never heard of it, are those chemicals that don't break down in our environment. They actually hurt the standing ones, the trees. And if they're hurting the trees, then they also hurt you. Forever chemicals don't break down in our bodies. The PFAS chemical in the forever chemicals are resistant to water, they're resistant to grease, and they are resistant to heat. The PFAS chemicals are found in a range of our everyday products, including food packaging, clothing, cosmetics, even your toilet paper. Let's talk about that, because you remember how when the shutdown happened, people were needing to get toilet paper. Toilet paper is something we all use, man or woman. And it goes into one of the most sensitive of areas. So how is that altering your body's chemistry? Something as simple as toilet paper we don't think about, composed with forever chemicals. We're veering away from these things, deviating. Those cycles are coming to a close. After they had the MK Ultra project, they had the Bluebird. It was just an offset. They changed the names. And for some of you, I'm hearing, as children, your names were changed. Some of you don't even know. It's like your name was changed. The same way they don't want, the same way to, when one project has gained a lot of awareness, like MK Ultra, the name will be changed to something else. Bluebird, that sounds so nice and sweet, the Bluebird project, right? But it was still just an offshoot of MK Ultra, and it focused on hypnosis and behavior modification. These are the cycles that are coming to a close. Now, many of you have seen the news where they're microchipping for jobs, microchipping that are the size of a grain of rice that can be given to you, but you don't know what this microchip is going to be able to control in your body. And some of you don't even care. You just kind of go with the flow. But this is where the cycles are ending for those of you who are divergent. Those of you who consider new ideas and solutions. Solutions that are beneficial, not harmful. There's a rebirth of this divine alignment. A rebirth of light codes being made aware and awareness of them. As we take time to reflect on certain cycles, it's like some want to apologize, but an apology is useless if there's not a changed behavior. So if there's no growth, then what good is the apology? An apology without growth, without change behavior, simply creates more grief. And do you notice that all of these cards are green? So this is like the heart chakra energy. This is what a lot of those microchips are also affecting, your heart chakra energy, where people don't smile at each other, where there's no touch. It's just robotic, wanting you to be more robotic. In the movie Divergent, it was about that. It was about wanting to control the way you thought. And if you're microchipped, nanotechnology, you could possibly have your light codes locked down before you ever even came into the awareness of these gifts, these light codes. For some of you, since you've been a child. And that's what the brainwashing is all about. But I'm hearing the divine say not to get into grief, not let your heart be troubled. For nothing has really gone wrong. Once you recognize a thing, you can then create change. You can then reflect on new ideas and solutions. I'm hearing that many of you who are divergent are calling forth this rebirth because you were never the problem, you're the solution. And that's what we're focusing on. Not what went wrong, but the solutions, being the change we want to see in the world. And this is for those that are divergent, spiritual warriors, those that listen to their inner voice, and those that are coming into a remembrance about their spiritual gifts, those that are coming into a remembrance after the brainwashing and the psychological breakdown of their light codes being locked down. This listening to your inner voice is allowing for these new beginnings to start in the way that we grow our food, in the way that we ingest food, in the way that we take care of the innocence of the children, of the youth, in the way that we allow certain chemicals to pollute the earth, to pollute the trees, and to pollute us as a collective. Forever chemicals. Do you know how long forever is? Forever, ever, ever? Ever, ever. And they are what? Resistant to water, resistant to grease, and even resistant to heat. Some of you that are spiritual warriors, spiritual gangsters, you're like insurgents. And an insurgent is a rebel or a revolutionary. Someone who basically goes against these cycles that are ending. Those that are choosing to be in divine alignment. Those that go against light code lockdown. New beginnings. It's about the transformation of our perception. There are some that feel that there's not enough, so they need to control others. This is also what that movie was about. They saw the ones that had the spiritual gifts, the ones that were divergent, as troublemakers, because they thought outside of the box. And they couldn't fit them into a specific category. And that's like some of you. That's why you felt like the black sheep. You didn't fit into a specific category. You've always been your own kind of unique person. Now, for some of you, that caused some of you grief, because all you really wanted to do was fit in. For some of you. But I'm getting that many of you are recognizing and realize you weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to be the change. And that wasn't always an easy thing, but with this growth and these new beginnings, with this remembrance of who you are, why you came, what you're here to do, with the remembrance of coming out of the mind control, with the remembrance of exiting the matrix, with the remembrance of coming out of brainwashing and psychological attacks. Even some of you who are like microchipped, you're still coming into the remembrance of it all. And you're elevating in consciousness, elevating in spirit. There's a rebirth. And this is because many of you are tapping into your heart chakra. You're making the conscious decisions to raise your vibration. The example I was given that I saw, it was like a school. And they call Earth the Earth School, right? So many of us are in class. We're in school and we're coming into this remembrance. But as we're here attending this earth school, spiritual beings having a human experience, as you're here in this earth school, there's an adoption of new tests for the gifted. Who are the gifted? The chosen ones, the spiritual alchemists, star seeds, the black sheeps, those that are coming into the remembrance. knowing that nothing has gone wrong because you're able to tap into this inner voice and come into divine alignment to receive the downloads, to come out of light code lockdown. Those cycles are over. And so with this new test for the gifted, those that look for creative problem solving, those with divergent thinking, you are never the problem, you are the solution. You guys have the ability now to change the perception. You're like the forerunners of those, like, so there's like waves. The first wave of those that are coming into remembrance as these cycles are ending and the new beginnings are beginning. You're able to focus now. Okay, this one doesn't have any messages. As you're focusing, you're tapping into that inner voice, hearing that inner voice that's aligning you, that's elevating you, that's balancing out the forces. Many of you are tapping into your third eye chakra, and as you connect with your third eye, you're transcending. You're transcending what you understand with your mind, and you're discovering a deeper inner knowing. And this inner knowing comes through the interconnectedness of us all, of all things that are, that were, and that is. All that is and has been. The trees, the standing ones, are and have always been. The ocean. As you tune into this wisdom, listening to this inner voice, and you focus on this wisdom is ancient. The wise ones. It's ancient and it's pioneering. That's what I meant about that first wave. You're pioneering these new beginnings. And you're tapping into your co-creative abilities of your free will to choose. You're choosing to weave new beginnings, elevation, making conscious decisions of raising the vibration from moment to moment. For nothing has gone wrong. You're coming into this spiritual awareness, coming into this remembrance. Balancing out the masculine and the feminine energy. Many of us are being invited to look at masculine and feminine energy with a more balanced perspective. What needs to happen to form a more holistic and equalized foundation? This is what that first wave is asking as these new beginnings are happening. What needs to happen? What needs to happen to form a more holistic, not forever chemicals, not microchipping, not child endangerment, a more holistic and equalized foundation? You see, The MK Ultra, the Bluebird, was coming from a more masculine perspective. And it was driven and concentrated on control, on ambition, creating competition. Divide and conquer, I just heard. Keep them fighting with each other so they don't see what's actually going on. But engaging now with a more feminine energy of receptivity, and the receptivity is about trust. Trusting that nothing has gone wrong, trusting that we are elevating and making conscious decisions to raise the vibration, trusting that a rebirth can happen as we tap into our heart and balance out our heart. For all things, people, and places. The ocean is a place. The trees and the animals are things, as are we. Trusting and going with that flow, but it's the flow and surrender. Considering that all things we should be grateful for. And feeling the warmth and the gratitude that nothing has gone wrong. Taking comfort in knowing that everything is divinely perfect. As we're elevating, raising the vibration, even with all that has happened, it's allowing for us to become more aware, to receive the light codes, to move in a way of gratitude and able to live in bliss. Live in your bliss. And when I say live in your bliss, it's because someone else doesn't need to microchip you or brainwash you, MK Ultra, and mind control you, but allow you to make conscious decisions. Nothing has gone wrong. It's about growth and healing the heart. Every card that came out from the chakra deck is a heart chakra card. Healing the heart, releasing the constraints. See, some wanted us restrained. That's why the lockdown was ever so present. But by living in your bliss and seeing the silver lining that nothing has gone wrong, that's how we're making these conscious decisions to raise the vibration, to choose love over fear. It's fear that makes someone want to MK Ultra or mind control someone. It's fear that makes someone want to brainwash. Those cycles are ending. That time is over. We're moving into divine alignment, seeing the silver lining, and choosing to love ourselves by not ingesting forever chemicals, by growing healthier food, by elevating and making conscious decisions, self-love and listening to the inner voice, being the observant witness and allowing the transcendence to happen for these new beginnings of divine alignment. Being mindful, listening, trusting our intuition, for some shifting our perception, and following the voice of Our soul. Because it's the soul that's speaking forward right now. It's the soul that wants you to live in your bliss and elevate, making conscious decisions. Many of us are unraveling the paradoxes of this reality. And as you're doing this, you may need to surround yourself with protective energy, because there are still those that are like, why are you waking others up about the brainwashing? Why are you waking others up about these forever chemicals? Why are you making them aware that they might be microchipped? And so energetically, many of you, possibly even in the actual world, like, there are some that don't want to see, that don't want to offer the apology, that don't want the growth to happen. But as a collective, those that are listening to their inner voice and making the conscious decisions, you're learning from these spiritual experiences. This is where the growth is happening. And many of you are becoming great teachers. You are spiritual warriors, and you're teaching others how to love themselves, how to live in their bliss. Because living in your bliss is what raises the vibration, raises the frequency. Seeing the silver lining. The power of self-love is an amazing thing. And many don't want you to live loving yourself, want you to be in fear, thinking that peace is not the way. Now, I just heard someone say, in order to have peace, you're going to have war. Maybe. But in the meantime, it's about living in your bliss and letting go of the need to be right. You see, those that want to microchip you, those that want to brainwash you into their way of thinking, don't want to release control of you. They want you to be veiled in a fog, not able to receive the light cold lockdown. Do you see the light codes coming through? But there's a whole veil of clouds, and this reminds me of the chemtrails. When you go out, there's a whole blanket of clouds covering the sun, so that you can't receive the light codes coming forward. But it's about getting grounded, connecting with the standing ones, the trees, so that we're able to balance these forces, so that we're able to shift the perspective, shift the perception. It's not about forcing your perception or them forcing their perception on you. It's about living in your bliss and allowing others to live in the power of their self-love. But there's this element that wishes to control. Many of you are peacekeepers. That's what being the spiritual warrior is all about. Keeping the peace. But in the midst of being, how does that saying go? I was going to say, in the midst of being a farmer, a gardener, I heard a saying recently. It said, you'd rather be a farmer. I may say this wrong. You'd rather be a warrior that farms than a farmer I'm saying it wrong. That needs to be a warrior. But all in all, it was saying that if you don't know how to protect yourself, then there's always those that'll come in to take over. So it was something like, it's better to be a warrior that's a farmer or gardener than a gardener. Something like that. I don't know. I can't remember it right now. But it's about following the voice of your soul as you're making conscious decisions. Being a peacekeeper. Living in your bliss. Knowing that nothing has gone wrong. Many of you are tapping into the upper world. And the upper world energy is all about the elevation. It's about receiving light codes, downloads. It's about connecting with higher forces. All of the elements. It's about following the voice of your soul. Many of you, I'm hearing, also are having premonitions. Premonition is seeing the future. And some of you are the peacekeepers, I'm hearing. As you're elevating and making conscious decisions to raise your vibration, as you're focusing on being the peacekeeper and letting go of the need to be right, this is bringing us into divine alignment, because there are more and more that are in remembrance. Remembering and reflecting on the spiritual enlightenment and the spiritual experiences that they've had, that they're having, and for some that they're going to have, premonitions of seeing the silver lining and how all things work together. But the silver lining is about these new beginnings. New beginnings. New beginnings of living in your bliss. New beginnings of healing the heart. New beginnings of tapping into self-love. New beginnings of releasing constraints. Cycles are ending. There's a divine grace that's happening as we connect with the standing ones, the wise woman of the grove with grace. This is where the treasure lies. Can you see that? The standing ones have the ancient wisdom. Do you see that person that's like merging with the trees? New beginnings. Let's get some tarot before we close out this message. Is there anything you want to add to this message? As cycles are ending, time is over with new beginnings. Cycles of grief, living in grief is over. Cycles of living in fear is over. What more would you like to add to this message before we close it out? Thank you for the wisdom, the guidance, and the insight. Yeah, we are the magicians. And we're able to get exactly what we want emotionally. We have the tools for this new beginning. This is why it's the healing of the heart. It's cups here. But as the magician on a spiritual level, you're able to still be the peacekeeper. You're still able to make conscious decisions to raise the vibration. Do you see how his hand is raised? And I'm getting it's like as above, so below. Releasing the light, being released, cycles ending, time over for a light code lockdown, new cycles of growth. Nothing has gone wrong. Give me a crystal to sum up this reading, please. Magician energy. Seeing the silver lining. Following the voice of your soul. And we have the citrine crystal here. The citrine crystal assists with your perception. It's that crystal that magnifies the energy as you're in your magician essence to call in positive energy. It's the crystal that enhances your aura as these cycles are ending and you're moving into divine alignment. The citrine assists in absorbing information and analyzing an issue and seeing a positive outcome. And that's exactly what this entire reading was talking about. We've absorbed a lot of information. The information about child endangerment, the information about child trafficking, the information about forever chemicals and microchips. This crystal can help you as you're absorbing this energy so that you don't start to feel in a heaviness and in grief. For nothing has gone wrong. This crystal can assist you by enhancing your aura so that as you're getting grounded, as you're meditating, as you're shifting your perception and you're being the peacekeeper, you're able to analyze and be divergent in your energy to see the issue and then see the positive outcome. To see the issue and then tap into your divine alignment of creating new ideas and solutions. You're able to focus more. That's why the citrine crystal is here. Focusing on the positive outcome. Focus on elevation. Focus on raising your vibration. Focusing on making a conscious decision to learn from these spiritual experiences. Focusing on growth. Focusing on divine alignment. And that everything goes in cycles. And these cycles where this information has come in, the information of the cycles of child endangerment, MK Ultra, forever chemicals, microchips, those cycles are ending and new beginnings are happening. That time is over. Okay, so I want to thank you guys for joining me for this reading. Continue to live in your bliss and to tap into the power of self-love. Continue to follow the voice of your soul as we're balancing out forces in the spiritual and in the new earth, in these new cycles. Live in your bliss. Nothing has gone wrong. Focus on seeing the positive outcome. Focus on listening to the inner voice. And do your spiritual cleansings. Surround yourself with protective energy. And that means setting boundaries. Saying no. No to forever chemicals. No to child endangerment. But in the element of peace. because peace is the higher vibration. And no is a complete sentence. And that is also a boundary. And that is also how you surround yourself with protective energy. I want to thank you for joining me. Tonae Star. Here with Tonae Star Enterprises, the divine took us on a different kind of reading today. But many of us are spiritual warriors, spiritual gangsters, standing in divine alignment. So always shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you're still amongst the stars. And remember to always, always, always let your light shine bright. Thank you for joining me.